What's up, guys? Today's podcast is brought to you by Final Fantasy VII Remake. Just because whenever I'm feeling super upset, I always, and I mean always, go back to Final Fantasy VII, either the remake or the original game, and I just sit through and I start playing again. I've done this once a year, sometimes twice, for the past 13 or 14 years, and every single time, I can't stress enough how amazing that game is. It's also how I got Cloud's name. You know, he's the main protagonist of the series, or not the series, of that entry into the series, and that's why Cloud is named, the way he is. They have similar eyes, and they're both assholes. He just walked away from me too. So it's brought to you by Final Fantasy VII. If any of you guys have not played it, I suggest you figure out a way to do it, because if you like storylines that are as immersive as any TV show that you could ever see on TV, like, say, if you like Game of Thrones or Breaking Bad and stuff like that, it's right along the lines of that kind of storytelling. But it was done in 1996, 1997, way ahead of its time. So, if you like cool stuff like that, go ahead and play it. I promise you'll like it. So, today, we're going to do something different. Today's podcast is going to be how can I put this? It's going to be a get to know the host podcast. All right. I've done three episodes of this that were somber and serious, and might be construed as a little bit more on the dark side of podcasting in terms of this show. So I wanted to liven things up a bit and kind of make people comfortable and get to know me more, especially if you don't know me, which, I mean, I would say it's about half and half, 50-50, that whoever listens to this knows me or doesn't know me. So for those of you who do know me, bear with me. I'm sorry. I know you already know the shit. It's really not news. Or, maybe some of it is news. But for those of you who don't know me, I would like to say you're in for a treat, but I'm not too sure about that. I can't speak for you or your tastes or anything. I might just be a complete bag of shit that you don't like. And that's okay. To each their own. But I'm going to do it anyways, because it's my podcast and I do what the fuck I want. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, as I said in my first podcast episode, my name is James. I am 28, about to be 29 on August 20th. So, for those of you who follow any type of astrology like that, I am a Leo. On the tail end of it, literally 2 days before it ends. I mean, for any of you who care. I live in California. To be completely accurate, I live in LA County. I'm not going to say where. Half of you already know. But I do live in LA County. I was born here in Torrance, California. I was raised here in LA County. And I spent the majority of my early life. It was happy. My life was pretty happy, to say the least. Like, my mom and my dad got along for the first couple years of my life. And, obviously, spoiler alert, they're divorced now. And they they hate each other. They can't be in the same fucking room together. But, all things considered, I didn't grow up too different from anybody else, other than the few bad things that happened to me, which we'll touch upon in another podcast, because this one's strictly happy. I'm going to say this one is strictly happy podcast for the most part. I'm not going to dive into any details of any trauma or bullshit that happened, and unless it pertains to a happy part of the story. But for all intents and purposes, this is going to be really fun. Yeah, I grew up in a big family, big Hispanic family on one side, and the other side is Greek, Spanish, and Native American. They all that side all lives pretty much in New Mexico and out in the desert. Pretty much all of them speak Spanish too. So both sides of my family are both bilingual for the most part. I am only conversational, to say the least. It's not great, but I do get by. Sorry, excuse me. So coming from that, and the other side, my mom's side, is Puerto Rican. And within their gene pool, I guess you would say, they come mostly from indigenous Indians and slaves that were brought over from Africa. So that's why I'm a little bit darker than I would say most Puerto Ricans. Like my grandfather on that side, he's completely dark. You know what I mean? And my grandmother, who has vitiligo, so she's a little bit more on the lighter side now. But for a long time, my grandmother was very dark. You know what I mean? We have very indigenous features, to say the least. So, but yeah, I grew up in two big families. Both sides of the family were very big. Everybody had a lot of kids, so I have a lot of cousins on each side that are very close in age, you know. Out of my dad's side, out of the cousins that are in my generation, am I the youngest? I want to say I'm the youngest. I think I am. And then on my mom's side, I am towards the middle. And everyone on my dad's side, all my cousins were born, I want to say from the top, there's like an 8-year gap, and then a 2-year gap, and then for like a span of a year, we're all born within 2 months of each other, which is crazy. And then on my mom's side, we're all staggered. So my two older cousins and my sister are all within 4 years of each other. From 79 until 83, I want to say. And then the rest of us are from 89 to 92. All within a couple months of each other. Just back to back to back to back. And it's crazy. And we're all close in age. We all, for the most part, get along. You know, we're all pretty close. We all like a lot of the same things. We're huge sports fans. The sports in question are, I think there's only one that we all have in common, and it's baseball. All of us love baseball. Yes, Cloud, hi. I know you want to be part of the podcast, but you're a little gross right now. Plus, you can't talk. So baseball is the one sport that we all have in common that we all, and I mean all of us, played. Every single one of us. You know what I mean? Every single one of us had a love for baseball that was so intense. Still to this day, where it's just super, super intense. And then most of us like football, for the most part. And then I think I'm one of two that is completely obsessed with hockey. Like, I am completely obsessed with hockey. I've always loved it. My dad and I that was our bonding time. Me and my dad have a lot of like bonding activities that we do from childhood up until now, when I'm almost 30 and he's going to be 60. Going to hockey games was always one of those big things. You know, we here in Long Beach, which is the next big city over from us, they used to have a minor league team called the Ice Dogs, and my dad used to go get glass tickets for $12, $15, and we used to sit in front of the glass and just watch these hockey games go on. And it was, I have to say, like, probably my favorite activity that me and my dad used to do together. Hockey games were intense because we're both just in our jerseys. I gotta be, like, when we started going, like 5, all the way up until I was like 12. We would just watch hockey all the time. We'd watch it on TV. You know, like, we're lifelong Kings fans, LA Kings fans. My dad used to go watch them play when they played in the Forum in Inglewood, which is amazing. My dad also, you know, is kind of buddy with Daryl Evans. So it works out in this way where hockey's been in our life since forever, since my dad was young. You know, my dad was born in 1962, and the Kings came in, did the Kings come in the 60s? I want to say the Kings came in the 60s, like mid-60s. And we hadn't had a hockey team, ever. You know what I mean? LA didn't get another hockey team. Technically, it's not even LA, but until the Ducks came. And nobody likes the Ducks. No, respectable anyways. But hockey was it became a big thing here. And to be a Kings fan, it was really, really hard. From the time they came until the 90s, when they started going on the runs when Gretzky came. And then when Gretzky got traded, it became hard to be... That's about when I was born. It became hard to be a Kings fan again. Up until about 2000, I want to say 9, when they made a couple playoff runs. And then in 2012, they won their first cup. And then they won their second cup in 2014. So ever since then, hasn't been too hard to be a Kings fan. Couple heartbreaks here and there, but you get through it. So hockey has been me and my dad's thing, and baseball, of course. And we both generally like football, and we both love to work out. I don't do a lot of it anymore, and he's getting a little bit older, so he's kind of cut back. But probably for a good 3 to 4 years, my dad and I trained exclusively just with each other, because we just knew how each other wanted to work out and how we were both going to grow, because we're pretty similar. Like, I'm the spitting image of my dad. Like, if any of you know the old folk tale, the Greek mythology tale of how Zeus had Athena, basically Zeus became pregnant with Athena and had a headache. And his headache was so great that he asked one of the other gods to split his head open with an axe, and out popped Athena. I look nothing like my mother. That's exactly how I feel like I was born. Someone took an axe to my dad's head like they did to Zeus, and I popped out. So, and it's fitting also because of our Greek background. So it's a little tale I like to tell people just for fun. Most people don't fucking get it because they're like, "Oh, you're a nerd." Yeah, I get it. But it is a fun tale that me and my dad like to joke about and tell people, and we kind of get some not so stellar looks every now and then. So, you know, just growing up, to get back on topic, growing up is here, especially in LA, is difficult. There's you have it kind of good here because it is, it's California. We live 10 minutes from the beach. At least I do. My dad technically does now too. We've always lived literally 10-minute drive from the beach. Like, you drive literally a straight shot down this street that's right in front of my house, and you end up right in front of the ocean. As a kid, you can't ask for much more. And then, LA's an hour and a half from the mountains. Like, you have Big Bear and stuff like that, Mount Baldy. And then you have San Diego an hour and a half away. Hollywood. It's a big thing. Long Beach is cool. The OC is literally down the freeway. The only thing that sucks is that traffic takes, 2.5 hours to get anywhere. That's the only real downside. And, that's because it's overcrowded. But as a kid growing up, you don't really think about that. You're just you're here, you're born in LA. Most people from around the country think you're privileged because you live in LA, but let me tell you, LA is fucking difficult to make it in. It's expensive. The market is saturated in any job, honestly, because there's so many people here. There's so many people vying for the same jobs and opportunities that it just, as an adult, it's not very easy. But as a kid, like I said, it's just, the world's your playground here in LA. It really is. So growing up, I did what I could to enjoy it and have fun, and yeah, God. Growing up here and living here as a kid, I will take any day of the week. Living here now, completely different story. Not that great. I had plans to move fairly soon that have, at this point, taken a back seat. Probably won't happen. But after high school, I did move to Arizona. And that was cool. That was a fun experience. I lived there from the tail end of 2009 all the way up until the first month, January of 2013. I packed my bags and I came home to come live with my dad. I just kind of said goodbye to Arizona. I had friends out there, but I didn't have any good friends out there. If you know what I mean, like no one I could really rely on. And the only person out there is my mom and my stepsister, and then my older stepsister. My older stepsister's married. She has her kids. She has her life. We talk, we hang out sometimes, and she's cool. I love her. My little sister, the little stepsister, is like the greatest thing. She's so close to me in temperament and the way she deals with things and her personality and stuff. She's just like, I love her to death. I couldn't ask for a better younger sister. And I don't consider her my stepsister. I consider her my real sister. You know what I mean? Because I've been around her since the time she was like 4. She's always been around. And I love her to death. I do. She's one of my favorite human beings ever. So, Brooke, if you're listening to this, shout out to you, kid. And then, of course, my mom lives there. And I guess growing up, as soon as I hit about 8 or 9, when my parents split, my relationship with both of them got pretty hectic. Not only because of their lifestyles, but as a kid, man, I was just I ran wild. Mostly because I wanted freedom. I'm a kid. I wanted to do whatever the hell I wanted to do, and the few bad things that did happen to me as a kid contributed more to my bad attitude than anything. And then, of course, my dad left to Georgia to go to the academy for training for his job. And he was gone longer than I expected him to be, but I didn't know any better. I was a kid. I just knew he was gone for a while. Then my mom did the best that she could. She was going through her midlife stuff that she had just never gone through. She had kids early. Like, my mom had my oldest sister when she was 17, and then she had me when she was 25, not me. She didn't really get to live out a lot of her teen years and her early 20s and stuff, so she ended up living a lot out of it in her 30s, when her and my dad separated. It's hard as a kid to not have your parents around, even if they're there, because my dad ended up coming back. You just want to do whatever you want. And then when they got back together, they were pretty good. They were pretty good parents to me. I can't say that they weren't. They were always there. They were cognizant of where I was and how I was doing, despite their own issues with each other. I could never say bad things about them because they did what they could to protect me and make sure I grew up respectful, with good morals, and they did a good job. I'll never have a bad thing to say about my parents. Obviously, I wish there were certain things that I wish they both did for me growing up that I didn't have, that I have now, but it is a little like I'm an adult now. I'm going to be 30 next year. But I can't blame them for anything. They have lives too, but they were good parents. They were really fucking good parents. But for a long time I was mad at them, which sucked. And then I came to terms with the fact that they were fucking good. Some kids have worse parents, man. A lot worse. And I can't really complain about them. I love them. I love them both. They're just really cool. So, and around that time, when they got back together, I was already heavily into sports, but I got heavier into baseball. I got heavier into football. For a long time, I thought I was gonna play football, but it's not that I didn't have the size to play football or the athletic ability. I did. That was never a fucking problem. I wasn't tall enough. I'll say that much. For those of you who don't know, I am a fucking whopping 5'8" on a good day. So there's no real height for me, to be seen in my case. But I kind of strayed away from football after that and focused more on baseball. And that was my end goal. I wanted to play baseball. A lot. Really badly. Because all my cousins played baseball too. And they're all great at baseball. You know, my cousin Eddie and Julio and Tommy, they were all fucking phenomenal baseball players. Every single one of them. They were just all good. You know, and I was up on that level. And then, you know, high school rolls around and you don't have the grades to play, and, you know, it's more competitive, and, you know, you don't want to put the time and energy to keep your grades up to play. I just wanted to hang out. Like, at school I was bored. And instead of doing the work, I just said, fuck it, I wasn't going to do it. So, that really put a kibosh on, you know, me playing sports during high school and stuff like that. I wasn't very motivated to do well in high school, especially since in middle school, like, okay, in elementary school, I had a lot of friends. I would say I did. In middle school, I didn't have any friends at all, other than one friend, Kurt, who is still a friend to this day. I love him and his family to death, honestly. That family helped me through so much as a kid when my parents weren't around, and or I was just feeling upset and I needed someone to talk to. That fucking family always made me feel like I was part of the family. To this day, Kurt's mother is one of my favorite human beings. She refers to me as her second son. I was over there all the time, you know, and his dad and my dad were great friends. You know what I mean? They played ball in high school together, and or against each other, actually. And then, you know, speaking of baseball, his dad, Walt, was a fucking oh my God. Probably one of the better baseball players that I've ever seen. And talking about ball with him, legitimately, because he was on one of the feeder leagues for the Houston Astros. Dude, the man is I want to say 6'6", just a powerhouse of an athlete before he got hurt. From all the stories I've heard and from him man, and all the old stuff I've seen of him, one of the better baseball players I've ever seen. He could have done big things. And he's a great fucking human being. That family literally made me feel like I was part of the family. And I'll never be able to thank them enough for kind of saving my childhood in a lot of ways, like during the rough times. I'm forever grateful for them. So, as I was saying, Kurt was my only friend in middle school. I didn't hang out with anybody much. Nobody came to my birthday parties, like, from school. Stuff like that. I just didn't have any friends. And then in high school, that kind of changed. You know, I had friends, and, you know, things got a little bit easier, but I was still super unmotivated to really do anything in high school. Outside of just, you know, jerk around and fucking go to parties, and, you know. I did ROTC for 2 years, and I was really into that just because it let me express some pent-up anger. But, you know, working out and, you know, doing rifle drills and stuff like that, that was my little escape to get out of things. Also with video games, like, I'll tell you this much, doing anything athletic and playing video games together, those were my two coping mechanisms as a kid. Those saved me. Those saved me from just the ins and outs of boredom and loneliness. Man, I can't attribute my happiness and my ability to get through those times normally, other than with, like, playing video games, which I still do to this day, and my love of sports, which is still ingrained in me. You know, but I was never motivated to do anything but those two things in high school. And then I had friends. Like I said, I like to go to parties and hang out, and, you know, I like to go to shows. And I ended up going to continuation school because I was failing so bad in high school, not doing any work, which was hilarious because I would come home and I'd get calls from the school, you know, teachers and the dean, that I wasn't doing my homework, I wasn't turning anything in, you know, I was ditching class. And then we would go into these teacher meetings and these dean of student meetings, and they would bring up my test scores, which were fucking flawless. They were some of the best the dean had ever seen. And he goes, I just don't get it. What's wrong? Like, what's wrong with you? He said it a lot meaner than that, we'll say that much. What's wrong with you? Why are you like this? Do you just not fucking care? Blah, blah, blah. The dean outright said I was going to be a loser and I wasn't going to amount to anything. And they had to physically restrain my dad from jumping over the fucking desk to beat the shit out of the dean for talking about me that way. In front of my dad. Like, he had the audacity to say it to my dad. My dad is not... He's not a dude that takes shit lightly. You know what I mean? There's a simple fact in our family that my dad is the smallest of his brothers. My dad has 6 brothers. Or, no, he has 5 brothers and 1 sister. My dad is the smallest in, like, physically out of all of them, but my dad is the one that they don't fuck with. None of them. None of them want to fuck with my dad. Ever. My dad was so physically imposing for a long time, because he's shorter than I am, but he's probably about, like, 2 to 3 inches wider on each side, and I could hide behind him, and the only thing you would see is my head, but you couldn't see my torso or anything. He's that wide. And for a long time, it was nothing but muscle. So, nobody wanted to fuck with my dad. This dean thought that my dad wasn't going to do anything to him by talking shit to me in front of him while he's in the room with me. My dad reached over and grabbed this dude's tie and was about to pull him into the desk to beat the shit out of him, and they had to restrain my dad. And my dad was in uniform, too. So, when that happened, he was just like, you know what? My dad always said he had my back from that day forward because he wasn't going to let anybody talk shit about me. And I got sent to continuation school. My dad still had my back no matter what. So did my mom. But up until that point, I didn't know, I didn't have a great relationship with my dad. I had always thought my dad was very hard on me. And my dad to this day always says he was a little too hard on me, but it was for the right reasons, and I agree with him. And when that happened, and at that moment he said, I'm always going to have your back, I fucking believed it. I fucking believed it at that point. Like, there was no way for me to deny it. You know, at 16, and see my dad almost beat the shit out of, you know, someone in authority at my school for talking shit about me. Like, my dad was not having that. So getting into high school, you know, the tail end of high school, my junior and senior year, I spent a lot of time going to shows. I got very heavy, like, I was already heavy into the metal scene, but I got very heavy into the metal scene. And that was a big factor in my life. You know, a lot of metal, a lot of hardcore, a lot of punk. That was like the big turning factor for me, and having friends, just because those communities are so tight knit and they really have each other's backs. You know, that was big. I had friends. I had legitimate friends going into that scene, and just enjoying music with each other and going to shows and moshing, and just everything just lined up perfectly. It was great. Two of my friends to this day, who also reached out to me when, you know, the last week when this all was going on and I admitted to it, they both suffer from the same things that I do. Almost to the T, I would say. And we all have an understanding, but we had a falling out for a long time after high school. We just didn't talk. But in the recent years, we have been talking more. And those two were so accepting of me in high school when I came into the group. You know, Gonzo and Sean, they were so accepting of me that to this day I owe them a lot of thanks, because in a lot of ways they saved me from having the wrong friends and getting into the wrong group. Because at this continuation school, you know, I had the pick of the litter from whatever group I wanted to be in, because there were so many. You could just join whatever group you wanted. Everyone was cool. But a lot of those groups were just not ideal for me to grow in or to learn life lessons in, other than this group that I came into. You know, they just accepted me, and we went from there. Everything was good. And even to this day, the lessons I learned in that group, and, you know, the life, like, morals that I have and stuff like that, came from that scene, hanging out in the metal scene, the punk scene, and, hardcore, and a lot of things I think and believe still resonate all from that. So I have to thank them for, letting me in and making me a part of them. Shout out to them. Big shout out. So when I left high school, I didn't know what I was going to do. Like, at all. I had no idea what I was going to do. I had a choice of staying here or moving with my mom to Arizona. And so I made the choice, and at that point, I just moved because I didn't know anything else. I had no idea of anything else. At the time, my dad and I weren't talking. We weren't close. So asking him if I could stay here with him was just not really in the picture. And then me and my older sister we just don't get along very much. So staying here with her, it wasn't going to happen. My mom wasn't going to let me. So I went with my mom. My mom ended up moving in with her boyfriend and, became husband and wife, basically. And, that's how I got my younger stepsister and my older stepsister. And so we moved, and, things were good. I had at that point, though, I found a real love in MMA and Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and wrestling. I found real, actual love of something that I could do. Still, because I wasn't going to play, I couldn't play baseball. I couldn't play hockey. I technically could play hockey, still. I couldn't play football. But I could do jiu-jitsu, and I could go to Muay Thai, and I could fucking wrestle, and I could fight. And that became a big part of my life going through, 2009 all the way up until, I want to say 2 years ago, 2018. Yeah, it was huge, like a good 8 or 9 years of my life, on and off, and just the love is still there. It really is. It's a big part still. So I went, like, when I was there, that's all I did for a long time. And then I was going to school, and I got hurt in jiu-jitsu, and I got a hernia that ended up being just one of the most painful things I've ever been to. So I go to the hospital. I find out I'm allergic to opiates, have an allergic reaction to them. Almost fucking, I kicked, my dad said I kicked the surgeon across the room when they were trying to restrain me because I was having like a seizure, and I was ripping tubes out of my arms and needles and shit like that. My dad's like, "Dude, you're like the fucking Hulk. What's wrong with you?" My mom was scared, my stepdad was scared, everybody was terrified. So I have this surgery, and I'm not allowed to work out for 6 months. And I'm back in the gym after 3, doing shit that they told me not to do because I was 19. Was I 19? No, I was 18. I was 18 years old, and I thought like I was on top of the fucking world. I healed so fast. Like, we went back for the checkups, and the doctor's like, "Oh yeah, you can go back to working out." I was like, "Dude, I've been working out. What are you talking about?" He's like, "What do you mean you've been working out?" I'm like, "Yeah, I felt fine." He's like, "Well, okay, we're going to check and see if your hernia is back because we told you not to." So, they feel around, they do, CAT scan and stuff. He's like, "Okay, you're fine. Everything's fine. Just go work out." I was like, "All right, cool." So, obviously from shit like that, you can tell that I'm a little bit more reckless than most people because most people would, take the time off and, I went hiking Squaw Peak in Arizona, which is a completely vertical hike, while I had this hernia, and I destroyed this hike. And then I went a couple more days with it hurting, and I just kind of gritted out the pain. So reckless is one of those things that you can definitely attribute to me. It's not a great quality, but it is a quality that I have nonetheless. I really don't think things through. So after that, life just kind of got, not muddled, I want to say, but from 2011 until 2013 was just a 2-year span of me working and not really doing much, not really having friends. Like, I had friends that I moved in with in 2012. Like, I had roommates and stuff like that. But even then, like, I wasn't very close to them. So I ended up moving home. And from 2013 on until now, like, it's just been, a constant stream of, trying to have relationships and having friends and losing friends and, figuring out work. For those of you who don't know, I work in the service industry. I have been a chef. I have been a cook. I've been a sous chef. I've been everything that you can, any back of house title that you can even think of, I've held. You know what I mean? And, I did landscaping. I've done a bunch of shit. Things that I enjoy. They're all things that I do enjoy, though. It's not like I'm going to work and it's a fucking chore. Oh, I fucking hate doing this, blah, blah, blah. Some days, yeah, I do hate doing it. But for the most part, it's, they're things that I do enjoy. So I do them, and I do them well, and I put my best foot forward and do them to the complete best of my ability. I'm always happy to say that. And for, the last couple years, I want to say 7? Yeah, it's been 7 years since I've been back. Like I said, relationships, friendships, lack thereof both. It's trial and error. I've done a lot of traveling. I've been all around the U.S. to different states and seen different things. And, last year in September into October, I went to Thailand and Cambodia with my dad. Went to Southeast Asia, and that was an incredible experience. Just absolutely incredible. Like, just the cultural differences between the U.S. and there, and, how warm they all are, and how friendly and just family-oriented they are. And, their social and moral codes are a little bit different than here. Like, I think in America we take things for granted. Obviously in Thailand there are certain things that are very strict, in terms of, like, how you speak about the government and, the royal family, and, it's out of respect. And it is out of, control, but for the fucking people there, man, they're just so loving and warm and giving and friendly. You just don't see people like that in the U.S. half the time. It's really amazing. So I've been all over. I've been to Mexico, I've been to Canada, I've been, like I said, all around the U.S. It's just, you travel and you figure things out about other countries, and you realize that sometimes here people aren't that nice. But the nice people that you do have here, they're great. They're fantastic. I can say that about my friends and my family and stuff like that. I've been through a lot in the last, 7 years in terms of relationships, because, I've had girlfriends, I've had flings, I've had all this kind of stuff, and none of them have stuck. One in 2014 and 15. I thought I was going to marry her. I was 23 years old, and that just completely fell apart. Mostly for my own doing. There were certain things that she did that were just, they were garbage, to say the least. I did things that were garbage. But you're young, you learn, you live, you get through these things, and you find a way to become better. You have flings with people, you have one-nighters, of course. You have month-long relationships, couple months long, maybe a year. And then you work, you do your thing. Like, I feel like I can speak for most people in terms of that, like, especially the people that I know here in LA that I'm friends with, because they've done the same thing. You work, you go to school, you try to better your life, you have these relationships, you go out with your friends, try to have a social life, and try to keep yourself healthy, and plan a little bit for the future while trying to enjoy yourself. And we all did it. We're all still doing it. Half of us don't even fucking know what we want to do. Or if we're doing something right now and we want to do it, who knows if it's going to change. Some of us are settled down. Some of us are still single. Some of us have kids. Some of us don't. It's just... But we all did the same thing. For the very for the majority of this last 7 to 10 years, we all did about the same thing. You know, some of us just have more to show from it than others. And that's okay. There's no rush, you know. But so for me, it's been increasingly difficult because I don't want to say I'm impatient, but I kind of am. And I want things, like, once things are good, I want them to stay good. And I'll do anything to make them stay good if I have to, but that's not always enough. You know what I mean? And I have my own flaws, and you know, this last relationship that I had was just, I thought it was good. I thought it was great. And I thought things were finally going to work out. I was going to move, you know, across the country to Connecticut and start my life with somebody, you know, who I thought wanted the same thing for me and with me, but turns out she doesn't, you know, and that's a hard pill to swallow. It is. It sucks. But, you know, you learn, you heal, you figure shit out, and you just do your best and rely on the people that, you know, love you. So for me, it's always been a struggle to cultivate good relationships that don't end nastily, because most of them have, and most of them still do for me. Because I'm not going to beat around the bush. I'm hard to get along with, and I'm hard to love properly, and I have a very specific way I want to be cared for, and I don't think that's a bad thing, but not a lot of people can handle it. And that's just my personal quality trait. You know, everyone has their own. So you just kind of live with it. You deal with it. You make adjustments to maybe not be so stuck in your ways, and be more understanding, and, you know, be more affectionate and trustworthy and open and honest. That's all you can do. That's it. That's all I've been doing, personally, for myself. Sometimes it fails, sometimes it succeeds. It's just a roll of the dice. You know, you got to be okay with it. You know, going into it, that's going to be like that. So, but just for me, like, sometimes I get frustrated, and I get impatient, and if I say something once, I don't want to repeat myself. It's like, I have my bad habits. I do. And I'm hard to get along with, like I said, hard to love. But when I do love, and when I am loved, it's 100% for real. For real, for real, for real. I can safely say that, and I'm proud of that. You know, my personality, it's not for everybody. And a lot of my friends, their personalities are not for everybody. Especially if you don't like honesty, and you don't like confronting things head on. Because for the most part, if it's not my problem, like my personal issues, because obviously if I confronted my personal issues head on, I wouldn't be here right now talking to you guys at all, admitting all this shit. I wouldn't. But when it comes to, like, problems with, like, my relationships and my friendships and all that kind of stuff, my family, my work life, I will deal with things head on, honestly, and sometimes coldly, which is a bad trait, but it does happen, because I don't want there to be any bad blood, and I don't know. I feel like things, if you leave a bunch of stones unturned, you'll never, you know, you might miss things, you know, and just putting the problem to the back burner is not an acceptable solution, because it's not a solution at all. You're just biding time until you can deal with it, not even accordingly. You're just forced to deal with it at that point, instead of dealing with things accordingly, not right away, but within a timely manner. And, you know, you have less of a risk of leaving scars like that, you know, and that's what I'm all about in terms of my personality. You know, I'm never going to say I'm smart, or, you know, I'm amazing at this and I'm that. I just try my best all the time. I give 100% no matter what I'm doing, even if I fail, because at least I can say I did it. You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid of failing. I hate failing, and I don't want to fail, but I'm not afraid of it, because I learned so much from failing versus getting a win, that it's just the amount of experience you get. Think of it like a video game. Experience is everything. Experience helps you grow. It's just the lifeblood of your character. And if this were a video game and we were all gaining experience, I'd be like level fucking 80, while some people would be like level 40 or 50. You know what I mean? I've had that much experience because I've failed that many times, and I've had to get over these obstacles, even if I had to do them 2-3 times a piece before I fucking learned. And you just keep growing experience and more, and you just take that and you grow with it. So as me, like, as you guys are getting to know me, you'll see that more. That I'm willing to put in the effort multiple times over to get things done for myself and others. And I think that's, I'm proud of that trait. I would say I'm proud of that. There's no way anybody can make me feel bad about that, ever. I can't even make myself feel bad about that. And I can make myself feel bad about just about anything. Like, you name it, I can make myself fucking feel bad about it. No problem. Except that. And I'm happy about that, because I can take that as my one good win where nobody can say shit about it, not even myself. And I'm my biggest attractor ever. So, I think I want to move into some questions. Obviously, I put up a poll on Instagram. Not a poll, I want to say like a question thing where people can ask questions. And I thought I was going to get more, but everyone fucking hates me. So they only gave me probably about 3. So I'll read them off. And we'll go from there. Let me just pull this up real quick, guys. Bear with me. Okay. So, shout out to the people who asked me questions, because they're fucking awesome. For the other people that didn't, I don't like you. I mean, obviously I like you guys, but I don't like you too much right now. So, first question. You have one last meal. What's it going to be? Make it epic. So, let's say I'm on death row, or I'm dying, and I get one last meal. One last meal. It would, man, I don't know. I'm stuck between 2 things, or two different spreads, if you want to say that. They're tied, so I won't say my first choice or my second choice. One would be the all-out family-style dinner from George's Greek Cafe over in Long Beach. George and his wife were a friend of the family. They're both gone now. Rest in peace, both of you. They were amazing people. And just some of the most amazing cooks I've ever come into contact with. Their food, out of this world, beyond out of this world. You know, the family style spread, it comes with like the dips with tzatziki and hummus and, you know, baba ganoush and tapenade and tons of pita bread. Sagi the flaming cheese, which is just a giant thing of Greek cheese set on fire with, I think it's amaretto and ouzo. And they set it on fire, and it's just flambéed, and it's fucking so good. Eat that with pita. Their veggie platters, incredible. Their Greek rice and the lamb chops and the vegetables, and oh my god, dude, it hurts. It hurts talking about it. The salad, you know, the potatoes, everything. And then at the end, with a bottle of wine, that's like mine and my dad's favorite meal together. Like that big family style spread with like a couple bottles of wine. And then at the end, a Greek coffee, like a Greek espresso and baklava. Dude, let me tell you, you know, now that I'm thinking about it, that might take the cake over this other one. It might, because the way I describe it and like the feeling that I'm getting. Like, I'm almost getting turned on by talking about it, because it's that good. So if any of you guys are ever in Long Beach and you guys want to go to George's Greek Cafe, seriously, hit it up and get the family-style dinner, because it's just... it's amazing. You will not go wrong. And then the other choice would have to be barbecue. Good barbecue. Good American barbecue. What in particular? It would be baby back ribs for sure. With a dry rub and a mop sauce. Collard greens with ham hocks. Mac and cheese. What else? Probably fried okra. It's just incredible. Brisket. Cornbread. And then with like pickled onions and stuff like that on the side. Like pickles are always good for barbecue. Just because they just help digest properly and this flavor profile is amazing. And then red beans and rice. Oh, can't forget about that. Cannot fucking forget about red beans and rice. Anything Creole like jambalaya or Cajun. I'm sorry, I want Cajun style, not Creole. Jambalaya and gumbo and dirty rice, pork riones, amazing. And then for dessert, or you wash it down with a good peach sweet tea, or like just a regular sweet tea. And then for dessert, there's nothing better than black coffee and fresh peach cobbler a la mode. Just, dude, if you could see me right now, I'm like basically sweating talking about this because food is so good, and as a fat kid, it just like, oh, it brings so much joy. Those two meals right there, those would be my last meals. Bar none, those would be my last meals. Plus, you know, if there's alcohol involved, I'll have beer, you know, and I'll have beer or tequila, anything like that. Some whiskey or bourbon. I'm all on board with that. And if I'm, you know, having the Greek meal, it's ouzo. I'm just gonna drink ouzo. That's it. If you guys don't like black licorice, you're gonna fucking hate ouzo. My dad hates black licorice and he still drinks ouzo. That's how good it is. So, those would be my last meals if I had the choice, you know? I mean, obviously I do, but they're tied. Like, I can't really think of anything better than those two. And I can't even pick between the two. So, those are my last two. The next question is, pick one song that represents your vibe in the last few months. Okay. There's a couple. There's definitely a couple. Let me go to my Spotify real quick. Bear with me, guys. Go to my... I can give you one song, but I can give you multiple bands that resonate with me more. Like, just as a whole with their catalogs and stuff like that. So I'll give you one or two songs that I have tied right now. And then I'll give you the artists that kind of resonate with me. Because it's not particularly songs, it's just their catalog is just... They're always good to me. Song-wise, Nobuo Uematsu did Hollow for Final Fantasy VII Remake. And it's with Yosh from Survive Said the Prophet, which is a J-pop band, J-rock band. That song, just because of like the way it's written and the way it's performed by Yosh, and the sentiment it has for my favorite game, it's fucking amazing. It gets me through good times, through bad, anything. Like if I'm in a bad mood, good mood, whatever mood, I'll just sit there and listen to it and sing it. The next song would probably be... what would it be? Let me look at my songs. Oh, probably Mercy. Mercy from The Ghost Inside. Yeah. That's for what was it, last year? Yeah, last year we went to The Ghost Inside's first show back after their giant accident, and it was so incredible. Oh my god, it's one of the best shows I've ever been to. Just one of the best ever. And when they played Mercy, I lost my fucking mind. I did, and like still to this day, Dear Youth is a great album, and that's on. We'll say The Ghost Inside is one of those bands on that list, and Dear Youth, the album, it fucking, oh my god, it's just yeah, that'll be on the list right there. I vibe with that. It's just good vibes. Let's see the other band. Okay, so bands, Darkest Hour, still to this day one of my favorite bands ever. Like they're just insane. Their whole music catalog is just, it speaks to me in any way that I would need it to. My Chemical Romance, obviously, their first three albums. I can't speak enough of them like in the highest regard. You'd have to pay me to badmouth them. they're so good. If you guys hear that noise in the background, that's just the garbage truck outside ruining my fucking audio. Thanks, dude. It's fucking 4 o'clock in the afternoon. Why are you picking up the trash now? Let's go with one. I'll do two more bands that I really vibe with, just because I like California's the vibe, and it's a band that or like a group that I've always liked a lot, that I've had the chance of seeing twice but never did because I'm an idiot. Iration, just especially summertime right now, just absolute complete vibes. The best too. They're so good. And then let's go with, okay, this might be hard, honestly. This might be a little difficult. I have so many bands on here. So many insane bands. I'll give the cop-out answer, and I'll go with the Rolling Stones. Just because for pound, they're probably my favorite band ever. And I got the chance to see them with my dad last year on my birthday in Pasadena. And my dad had seen them, the last time he saw them was in the 80s. And, you know, their tours were all insane and all that kind of stuff. And they came back for a reunion, and me and my dad saw them on my birthday. And it's just one of the greatest memories I have. It's one of the best memories I have fully. Man. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the Rolling Stones. My vibey bands and music that I'll resonate with. Next question is easy one. Favorite movie and why? Well, bro, it's not that fucking easy. It's really not. I have a lot of favorite movies. I do. Off the top of my head, I'm gonna go with Spirited Away, which amazing, just an amazing movie. If none of you have ever watched Spirited Away, I suggest you drop whatever the fuck you're doing and go watch it. It's a fucking masterpiece. And people are gonna say, "Oh, I don't like anime." I don't. Shut up. Who cares? It's fucking good. It's very good. You know, and you're only making yourself miss out if you haven't seen, you know, the Studio Ghibli movies, a lot of them. But Spirited Away by far is the best. And then Jesus. Maybe The Departed is very high up on that list. The Departed is very good. It's a fucking great movie. Especially being like immersed in like law enforcement culture, just because like my dad was a cop and is still in law enforcement. My uncle was a cop. My stepdad was a cop. You know what I mean? And seeing that the good and the bad side of that profession, especially now, like in today's climate, and in that movie, like the corruptness and you know, both sides are, one's very moral and one's, you know, as corrupt as possible. You get to see the ins and outs of both sides, and the good and bad of both sides, because there's good and bad in both the corrupt and the morally good sides, especially in that movie. So seeing those brought to life always resonated well with me, because it's a great movie. And then third, oh, man, I don't know. Movies are they're difficult. They can be difficult because I like so many. I don't know. Maybe Lord of the Rings as a series is up there as my favorite, just because I'm a fucking giant nerd. Star Wars is up there, the original 6, the prequels and the original trilogy. They're all fucking great. I don't care what anybody says. The prequels are good, other than Attack of the Clones. It's a fucking garbage pit. But it's still Star Wars. I still love it. And yeah, for movies at that point, I think that's about enough. I think those 3 are very good in terms of like who I am, and they speak to me and my personality, I guess I would say. Let's see next. What do you want to do with the rest of your life? Well, that's not vague at all. It's a very general question. I think with the rest of my life, I just want to be happy and healthy enough to have a family and raise a family, have kids. Just the basics. I want a decent house. I want a nice car. I want a motorcycle. I want some animals, that's for sure. Like, I want to live on a big, open ranch if I can. And have animals and... that would be really cool. I think that's what I really want to do. Just because it's always been appealing to me. I want to have a garden. I want to hunt. That's how I want to live the rest of my life. If I can. If I ever get to that point, that would be the goal. But the main goal is to just have a good family, raise some good kids, have a good wife that loves me, and I love her, and send my kids off to a good school, and make sure that their morals are just, and the way they grow up, they're respectful and loving, and can communicate. That's what I want with the rest of my life. Career-wise, I don't care. If I fall into a career that I really love, I'm good with that. I don't really have a choice right now, like, specifically. But whatever I end up doing is just... it's fine by me as long as I love it. That's the big picture. What do I want to do with the rest of my life? I want to be fucking happy. That's what I want. That's always a good answer. I think, at least. But so, I'm gonna wrap this up, because we're over an hour right now. This is by far the longest episode of the podcast, but it is a way to sit down and get to know me. I want to thank you guys for whoever's listened to the first 3 episodes. Like I said, thank you. It means a lot to me. You guys are amazing people, all of you. Anyone who's reached out to me and supported me in this time where I needed them, and I just can't thank you enough. And for anybody who listens to this and didn't know facts about me and learned something new, hey, I'm glad. Feel free to talk to me about it or comment on it and talk shit about it. I don't care. And for those of you who didn't know me, you know me a little bit more now. You know me a little bit better, and hopefully you do kind of like me. I mean, I don't want to be disliked, but if I am disliked, it doesn't really matter to me. But I do want to put my best foot forward and, put myself out there for you guys to know better as the podcast host. So you're not just listening to some fucking guy rant and rave about, his bad bullshit, because there is a lot of good to my life, and there's a lot of good in me, and I like to, express that. So it's not just all, it doesn't look like a fucking Hawthorne Heights video. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, if you guys have any questions, comments, concerns, you guys can comment down there. You guys can go to my Instagram and, talk to me there. I'm always up to chit chat about whatever. You guys know that. I'm very social, and having new friends is good, and then talking with friends even about stuff they didn't know about me, and they're like, hey, I learned this about you, that's cool, blah, 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 I didn't know. That warms my heart. So feel free to do any of that. Please like, comment, subscribe. Those are super helpful. It lets me know that you guys are watching, and you can comment negatively, you can dislike, just do something. You know what I mean? Let me see that you guys are interacting and that you guys either like or dislike. An answer is better than no answer. I always say that much. So, anyways, with that, thank you guys for supporting me and being my friends. And I love you guys all. Thanks. Have a good one.